Spectrovision Radio.
Along the path we parted ways. I walk the night, you tread the day, and we forgot we slept in knots all on the sunset coast. We shared our meals, we shared our songs, by candlelight or by the sun. I know you've sung 1,000 more, oh, since the time you've gone.
Hello everyone, welcome once again to another episode of the Ruck Rabbit Outdoors podcast. I'm here once again with my co-host,
Tim Renner. How you doing?
a friend of mine, and the gentleman we're going to be interviewing today,
Steve Jacob.
and we are actually in Devil's Hole. We're in a spot that is known, if you listen to or watch the Strange Familiars podcast, we're in a place that's, I don't know, semi-famous.
We've been here quite a few times on the show. Yeah.
So we're in Devil's Hole, and we're along the great and mighty Susquehanna River here in South Central PA. So, yes.
And
So
we are on the Mason-Dixon Trail.
and as
literally.
on the Mason-Dixon Trail, and as you can see, it has snowed here. This is our first really good snow of the year, and it's absolutely beautiful. So we are braving the elements and the cold. As you can see, we're all bundled up. It is very cold out here. Braving the elements and the cold to bring you this awesome podcast, because we really want to, as much as possible, do this on site.
Yeah.
Correct?
Sure.
So how are you today, Tim?
Chilly.
That's a good answer. How are you today,
I'm
Steve?
feeling really good. Usually when I'm here, it's pawpaw season,
Yeah.
and it's a little more temperate.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot better at that time of year. So, anyhow, let's get to interviewing this gentleman and find out why we are interviewing you and so on and so forth. If you don't mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about your upbringing?
I grew up on the eastern shore of Maryland, and I lived a really outdoorsy lifestyle, but not a lot of camping. It was kind of ironic. There was a lot of fishing and hunting. When I was a boy, I worked on the water with my cousins, so a lot of outdoor time, but not any time camping at all, really. It was kind of a unique thing when I met my wife. Her family were really into camping. They did a lot of car camping. But my interest in camping really grew as my interest in bike and trail riding kind of ramped up.
Cool.
And that's really how I met Chad. Like, we would chat periodically on Discord about equipment and things, and I realized that I could bring my passion in bike riding into camping and what I call bike packing, and our relationship kind of grew that way. I've gotten some really great first-class equipment that was affordable as I was getting started, mostly from recommendations of Chad, and I've developed a lot of experience from that experience now. My upbringing, like a lot of kids in the 80s, it's sort of like Stranger Things. Like, that really is my era. It's like kids on bikes, right? Like, you bike everywhere.
Yeah.
I always wanted
freedom.
Yeah, it really was.
You got your bike and you got your freedom.
And then it was the car,
Yeah.
but the bike was first, and that got you
yeah.
ready for the car, and it really was a big deal, and there were like biker gangs of kids
Sure.
roaming around. I had always wanted like a Schwinn Stingray with the 3-speed shifter in the middle.
Oh, wow.
Never got one. I understand they make them for adults. I think I'm kind of over it now, but I did have some Huffy bikes, and as I got older, I got more and more sedentary. And in my late 30s, I gained a lot of weight, and I wasn't really moving. And I ended up moving to York for a job, and there was a rail trail, and I saw people on it with bikes. And I said, maybe I could just get a bike and try that rail trail. And I ended up buying another Huffy bike, and I started riding it, and it would be like 20 miles. I'd do a 20-mile ride once a week, and then it was a couple times a week, and before I knew it, I was running 100 miles a week. I wore that Huffy bike out. I had to go get a better bike. And I felt the same sense of freedom that I had when I was like 12 or 13 or 14.
So
it was just so exciting to get on a bike and just go.
So that Huffy bike, was it what kind of bike was that? Was it like me growing up? We didn't have the Stingrays. You know, that was a lame bike by the time. You know, I was in the BMX era.
Yeah,
So
BMX
we had all the BMX bikes. So I had a Huffy. I can't remember what else I had. Some cheap bike called a Spiral or something like that. But what was that bike that you wore out? What kind of
so I wore it out as an adult. So it was sort of like a comfort hybrid bike.
Okay.
And
when you say hybrid of what?
It's a trail and road bike.
Okay.
So
it's close to a mountain bike.
Sort of, yeah.
Sorta.
It's like a hardtail mountain bike, and I was so heavy. I mean, like, I'm proud of the weight loss that I did, but I weighed about 255 pounds.
Oh wow.
And if I would stand up on the pedals, I would actually bend the rims of the bike because it wasn't the best bike, but also I was putting too much leverage on it. And
that's something that we've already established in our other episodes. It's like you have to start somewhere.
You got to get going.
And a lot of times people fall into the trap of you got to have the best equipment. And this kind of goes back to what you said earlier about having equipment that was budget friendly but still good. And some of these people fall into the trap, whether it's bicycle or any kind of outdoor sports or of any shape, even fishing and hunting. You got to have the best gear. You got to have the best of this. You got to have the best of that. And that's not entirely true. You know, it's okay to start with something in the moderate or low level. And I think as long as you're out, to me, that's the most important thing is as long as you're out.
I think it makes a lot of sense at that entry because I wasn't sure if it was right for me.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a person biking 100 miles a week. And if you're doing 100 miles a week, then it makes sense to buy a $1,000 bike.
That's a lot of biking. That's a lot of biking.
Yeah. But I've worn out $1,000 bikes too, you know,
wow.
they hold up much better. You know,
yeah. Well, you get what you pay for with outdoor gear.
You really do.
And that's something that I've noticed since, and whether it's, you know, I started out as a kid, obviously I did the scouting thing and I was camping in the woods and all that. Then before I got into the bushcrafting thing or the woodcrafting, whatever you want to call it, you know, I was backpacking. And you do get what you pay for to an extent. But there are some budget level items that are good if you do the research to find out.
I've noticed that there's some marketing and branding.
Absolutely.
And there's a premium for those things. You can find things that are often sewn or made in the same factory that don't have the marketing upcharge.
Yes.
And that's really what I noticed about the gear that you were telling me about. And some, you know, like One Tigris and others that they're just, they literally are made in the same factory, different styling sometimes, but really high quality stuff.
Oh yeah.
Without the marketing premium.
Yeah. I think it's cool that you grew up in the outdoors, but in a different way. You know, you were fishing. You did hunt. Did you say you did hunt as a kid?
We did a lot of hunting.
Yep. So you were fishing and you were hunting. You were outdoors. You know, you weren't exactly camping. And you don't have to be camping to be out.
There wasn't as many camping opportunities as there are in Pennsylvania. So we literally lived in a marsh. You know, you weren't going to sleep out.
So you're swamp foot number 2.
It really wasn't conducive to a lot of overnight, and there were, you know, pine woods, but they were primarily owned by Gladfelter. You know, they were grown and raised for, you know, harvesting.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I'm a Gladfelter employee, and that's a paper mill company up here in Pennsylvania, for those who don't know. I did not know they had woodlands down there, so I actually learned something new today.
Quite a bit.
I really did. But no, back to the biking thing. So what made you choose biking versus any other activity? I know you said you
grew up on a bike.
Yep.
I loved biking.
So that was the impetus to choose that.
It's going to sound silly, but it kind of tapped into my feelings about being on the water.
Okay.
And I would talk about it like I was going on the water. I was like, oh, I'm going to put over here, and I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to come back here.
Interesting.
And it just kind of related to my childhood in a sense.
So how long were you biking before you decided to combine the biking with the camping?
It didn't take long. So I was on the York County Heritage Rail Trail, and I would go by Indian Rock Dam Campground, and I would see people coming on the trail, and I was like, it would be kind of silly to do that here, but I would like to give that a try. And I started doing some research, and I found out about the Great Allegheny Passage, which runs from Cumberland, Maryland to Pittsburgh. And then I realized that the C&O Canal would start in D.C. and go to Cumberland, and it was 310 miles of very low road interaction bike paths. And some of it was retired railway, and the other part was the C&O Canal. And I took about 2 years to plan out my first trip, which really started out like biking to Airbnbs or just bed and breakfasts. So I bought some cheap panniers, and I took just enough gear to go, and I would do laundry while I was out.
So what is a pannier? So most people, for people who don't know,
just
what is
a bike
pannier?
saddlebag that you would put gear in.
Similar to a motorcycle saddlebag.
Very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a bit of an accent, so you might call them panniers, but
We're okay with any pronunciation. I say pannier,
yeah.
pannier, whatever. But anyway, continue on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So I hope nobody does this like I did the first time. I have the kind of personality where I'm really goal oriented, and I decided I was going to go to Cumberland to Pittsburgh, and I was going to do it in 4 days. And I had set up where I wanted to stay. The halfway point would have been Ohiopyle State Park, actually, which would have been great. And I should have stayed there, and I should have packed some camping gear and stayed there. But the next real place I could stop was like a 90-mile first day on the trail. And I decided I would go 90 miles and then 60 miles back. Pittsburgh was 30 miles away. So I would go to Pittsburgh and then back. That would be 60 miles and then 90 miles back. And my first 90-mile day, my hands went numb, my toes went numb.
Wow.
But I was so determined to do it, so I just kept pushing, even though I wasn't really enjoying it. It was a sufferfest, honestly. It wasn't the worst sufferfest I've ever been on, but I just had to keep doing it. And I got back, and I was kind of analyzing my experience, and I was like, I would have enjoyed it more if I would have kind of stopped halfway. And if I'm going to stop halfway, then I need to pack some camping gear.
I think it's part of experience, though. You learn what you can and you can't do, and what you should and you shouldn't do. I think we've all probably done that, where you push yourself too hard.
90 miles is insane on a gravel trail.
Oh, for sure.
It really is. It's too much. And so I actually went, and I actually contacted you, and I ended up with a nice little baker's tent. It just really suited my needs. It was a little difficult to put up, it's especially when you're tired. So the next year I did it in 4 days at 75 miles a day. And I ended up spending one night in Pittsburgh, because that was the 150 mark, and then back to Ohiopyle, and then back to Cumberland. And I realized that 75 miles really wasn't giving me enough time to really interact with the environment much. It's on ridgetops the whole way. It's the most beautiful thing you can imagine. It goes through Chestnut Ridge, which has some amazing folklore. And I just really I realized that I was just rushing every day. I would get on my bike and I would pedal as hard as I could go to do 75 miles. And I was doing about 10 miles an hour. And it would take me 7.5 hours to get to where I was going. And then I was so broken and busted, I couldn't really see anything. I would just sit up and pass out. And so as I got along further, I realized like 60 miles was like a really good distance for me to go. And I also realized that I really like sleeping in a hammock. And so I started doing some hammock tenting. And I realized that hammock tenting is sort of like having a toddler. Like there's all this paraphernalia that goes along with it.
There is.
Like
there is a lot of paraphernalia.
People
with
talk
that.
about it being light and easy and quick, and it's none of those things. Like you need extra. You can sling the tent, but then you got to do the underquilt, the overquilt. You got to put the tarp up right. And I think in some ways it's much easier just to do a single tent. But I really, after biking, I'm just so much more comfortable in the hammock. And so I talked to you about the right tarps to get, the right materials. And I got really good at slinging my hammock really fast, getting it up, getting the tarp up. But it's still pretty involved. And one of the things about biking from Cumberland to Pittsburgh in May, when I would often go, is that we would get nights in the 30s, 40 degrees, and so I had to take all the paraphernalia. So it's like my bike pretty much became my minivan with a toddler. I had at some point I realized I had about 70 pounds of gear.
Wow.
And you can do that. And I have friends that bike with 70 pounds of gear all the time. But then I got really obsessed with the idea that I could buy lighter, better gear and really become more selective about what I really needed to be happy. And a lot of it meant that, maybe I didn't take a full camp chair, which I actually was doing. I would have it strapped on the back of the bike, or maybe I didn't really need a full cook set and a full cook stove. And,
well, it's a learning experience, and no matter what you do, I mean, hunting, fishing, backpacking, the bike packing, you find what works for you, and then you pare back. So the rule for backpacking and any kind of packing in general is if you don't touch a piece of equipment, take it out of your bag. So next time you go out, you don't need it. Now, that doesn't mean take your first aid kit out. No. That has to stay in. Keep your first aid kit in. But something, like if there's a piece of cooking equipment or something that you don't touch and you don't use, take it out and see how you do without it the next time. And that's how you pare your weight down for backpacking, and it's probably the same for bike packing.
It's the same. I got my pack down to about 35, 40 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I still have friends that bike with 70, and they pack in the way that, like, I might need this. They take it.
Yes.
And they it's just like they pack for every possible scenario.
Right.
And what I really do is I pack for, breakfast, lunch, dinner, clothes changes, and a warm hammock sleep system. Warm, dry hammock sleep system.
So back to the hammock. I've found that I personally don't hammock, but I have friends that do. And I've found that, now when you said it was involved to set up and it takes time, it's one of those things, the more you use it, the quicker you get with it.
Yeah, and I've bought some specialized equipment that makes it really fast to pack up. I've got snake skins and
whoopee slings and all that
whoopee
stuff.
slings. And I didn't know about those things when I initially started.
It's a learning.
I had to learn
curve.
A series of knots that were pretty complicated. Actually.
Yeah, it is definitely a learning curve. I personally probably will never hammock because of the way I sleep. I move around a lot, and I know there are flat hammocks, but I just know that in the middle of the night, I don't want to have to get out in the middle of the night to go use,
Yeah, that's an issue.
to answer the call of nature,
Yeah.
and try and get back in the middle of the night when it's cold or anything like that, because then you got to zip back in. It's just it's quite a process. I know there are some hammockers that say, "Oh, I just turn sideways and I just pee out the side." I'm not taking that chance, because I've known people who have peed on their boots.
That's like a trampoline. It's not a good plan.
Absolutely.
I will tell you that I've had some experiences in a hammock that have been frightening, because you are zipped in, and
it's almost like a coffin at times, especially in the winter.
It can be a little
you're like
claustrophobic.
You're like this
with the tarp down. And I remember being in the hammock one night, and I didn't know what was visiting me, but it was a raccoon underneath my tarp, right underneath my hammock.
Yeah.
And I heard them snorting. I thought it was maybe a whitetail. It was like some snorting and some rustling, and then they ended up on the polyurethane that was for my feet and my boots. Actually, my cycling shoes, and I only had one pair of shoes with me. And I flipped the light on, and it was two small raccoons, and one went one way with one of my shoes, and the other way with one of my shoes. And I hopped down in bare feet, running into thorns, and just cursing the whole way. They left them, they dropped them, but they visited me later again that evening. And it really wasn't the best night of sleep. And this began my checkered history with raccoons, which I believe are just really marvelous creatures. They're really amazing, but they can be the bane of a campground if people are feeding them and interacting with them and not taking care of their things. And in fact, like kids on bikes, they can be an absolute biker gang. Like they can really plan. Organized assaults on a campground. Like I have seen groups of raccoons just descend out of the woods and just the whole campground turns on, lights are everywhere, people are screaming. It's just
is that your nightmare?
Something else.
I've come to a place where I'm perfectly neutral with raccoons, which means they're not my favorite thing in the world.
I know.
But I don't have to.
You have a history with them.
They have those hands, and I'm really good about hanging my food, and and out west, I haven't actually seen any bears, but there's the idea that bears could be there, and I hang my food properly, and but it's mostly for raccoons. And I had this one evening where I had forgotten to take some jerky out of my front pack of my bike.
Now, is this the same evening as when they took off with your shoes?
It was late. It was the second night I was at the campground.
Oh, okay.
So I heard them rustling around my bike. I flipped the light on, and there was this really big buck raccoon. And I knew it was a buck because he was up on his two legs, and he just took my bike and pushed it over like that. and then just looked at me. He's like, "Yeah, you want some of this?" And so he hissed at me. Oh, yeah. I ended up picking a rock up, and he took off before I could throw it. And then I went back to sleep, and I left the bike down. I was angry about the bike because I had it up on a stand. And I woke up the next morning, and he had taken off my pack, unzipped it, put it on the picnic table, took my jerky, took my loose change that I had for soda machines.
So you were robbed.
It felt like I was in the lunchroom and I got shook down by a bully. And so, like, the way this would happen, it was always the same campground every year. And I still do it every year. I do this bike ride from Cumberland to Pittsburgh back to Cumberland.
Do you do it with a group of guys, or is it just?
I have a group now of gentlemen that I met on the trail that were from Ohio, and we just happened to be there. And once a year we get together and we do the trail.
That's kind of how I met my guys.
I have a definite, and we've been to the New River State Park and done the trail down in southwestern Virginia. We've done the Lehigh Valley Trail. We've done Greenbrier and other places, and it's been a great relationship because it's expanded my trail and my bike packing.
Cool.
I will say though, like every year, I'm sure they're not the same raccoons, but it feels like it might be because they have like the same tactics, like when they descend.
Learn to behavior.
Yeah. And there's this one place that we always camp at. It's an Eagle Scout campground that's in a Civil War cemetery. It's called Dralvo Cemetery.
That's cool.
It's 30 miles outside of Pittsburgh. There used to be a church there, and the train went by, and it was like a little horseshoe curve, and it would throw sparks, and it set the church on fire, and it burned to the ground.
Oh, wow.
But the cemetery is still there, and it's a Civil War cemetery. And one of the amazing things about technology today is you can actually type in the person's name and their unit and pull up their full history.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
And like right there, like it's really interactive. It's really deeply meaningful history. And one of the things that happened is I was telling my daughters about this. My oldest daughter bought me this book about the haunted Dravo Cemetery that I was sleeping in. And the book pointed out that like a lot of the graves were unmarked, and that's really where the campground was. And so I was kind of queued up one year. I was like, oh my goodness, like, you know, I'm going to stay in this haunted cemetery. I started worrying about it like on the way. And at the first campground I stayed at was in Confluence, PA. It's about 60 miles out. It was my 60-mile stopping point. And I met a biker coming the other way and said, man, I'd stayed in Dravo Cemetery last night, and there were these raccoons, and they were just swarming everywhere, and they were really aggressive, and I got zero sleep. And I knew I was heading there next. So I was worried about the raccoons. I was worried about the hauntings that I've read about. And so I was really queued up. And so I got there the first night, and I took every precaution I could. I like hung my bag. I made sure the jerky was out of the front bag. I took my change out, and I left the bag open actually with nothing in it because I knew that they would root through it. And I set up my hammock, and I tried to set it closer to the trail, a little further away from the woods. And there were some other bikers that came in late. And I was telling them, I was like, look, I heard that the raccoons are really aggressive here and that they come out right at dusk, and you should be prepared and you should hang your stuff.
They come from the trees.
Yeah, they actually did. And so these people are like, that's great, you know. And they had like a vestibule, and they put their packs in there, and they had their food in there. And I actually saw this group of 2 young ones come out, and I could see them like under the vestibule, you know, with an open part that wasn't screened. And they grabbed one of the food packs, and 2 of them grabbed it and were running away with the food bag. The group that was I had warned, they ran after it. They got their food back, then they slung it. And then they were pretty active, and at some point they woke me up, and there was one of the young raccoons hanging off my slung food pack about 20 feet up.
He actually got up.
It looked like a pinata, I swear to God. And I was like, you get down from there.
Now, if Tim was there, he'd be like, let me get my stick.
Yeah.
I told you, I'm neutral with raccoons.
I know, I'm just joking.
We've come to a place where they don't have to be my favorite thing in the world, but I don't have to be aggressive.
So it got crazier, though. I biked, I got up that morning, I left my site up, and I biked into Pittsburgh and back. It was 30 miles to Pittsburgh, 30 miles back. And the trail was completely empty because there was a cold front moving in. And it was supposed to be, there were some Adirondacks shelters there, and I grabbed one, and I built a big fire in front of it. It was supposed to be in the 30s, and it was windy. And it actually got below freezing, even in May. And I had the whole campground to myself, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to deal with these raccoons, and you know, it's really cold. And luckily for me, I had like an emergency shelter blanket. It was like a tarp that was shiny sided, and I kind of put that down, and I was warm enough. But about right at dark, some old guy came pedaling in. He was about 80 years old, and I had heard about him on the trail for years. Like he would spend all summer biking from Pittsburgh to DC and back. And he would do it 3 or 4 times.
He was a legend.
Kind of a legend, but a character.
Aren't most legends characters?
A complete character. I met him there, and he's like, my wife doesn't let me stay in the house during the summer. And, you know.
So it sounds like he's really darn peculiar. Could this be like a folklore character on that trail?
Why not?
And I hope he's still. This was like 10 years ago. I hope he's still out there. You know,
yeah,
but
cool.
He would find abandoned bikes and he would rebuild them, and his bike would be constantly breaking down, but he could fix it. And he didn't have any gear at all. He was pedaling in flip flops.
Wow,
that's
hardcore.
He had these Tidy Cat buckets that he was using to keep his gear in. One was for food, one for his clothes.
Wow,
and He literally
You could
had
do things on a budget, like we said.
he literally had a pound of bologna and some Wonder Bread, and that was it. Like
Wow.
that's all he was. That's what he had for food. And he came up, and I was cooking dinner, and I could tell he was like, "What do you got there? You know, you mind sharing some of that food?" And it reminded me of some things that I read about. Like, I mean, it was kind of like, I don't want to over dramatize. It was like kind of like Grapes of Wrath. Like, you know, it was like, hey, you know, us hobos, we share stuff.
What was this
It's
guy?
like trail
What was this
etiquette.
guy's name? I'm just curious.
I can't remember.
Oh, my.
Honestly, it was about a decade ago. But it, like, as I was interacting with him, as he was eating my food, he was like, "Hey, I'm a legend around here. I know everything that happens around on the trail. I know where all the UFOs land. I know the haunted spots." And he's telling me this, and he's like, "This is the most haunted spot in Pennsylvania, right here in Dravo Cemetery." And I know all of what happens here. And every year, the broadcasters from Pittsburgh come in and they interview me, and I tell them a new story or something that happened this year. And he goes, "I'm a little worried about you being in this shelter." He goes, "Because it's the closest one to the cemetery. And the last guy who stayed here, he was sleeping in a hammock just like you, and something came along and grabbed his toe and shook it." It was so specific. I knew he was just messing with me.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Okay.
And I said, "I'm not really worried about any ghosts here. I'm not worried about it at all." And he goes, "Well, you should be worried." And I said, "You know what I'm worried about? The biker gang of raccoons that lives in that woods." And he goes, "Oh, I stay here all the time. I've never seen a raccoon." And I was like, "Dude, I was here last night, and they shook down the whole joint. They stole people's food. And I'm telling you, these raccoons are really aggressive." And he goes, "It's just not true." He goes, it's not right." He goes, "You need to worry about the ghosts." And I said, "I'm not worried about the ghosts." And then he said to me, "I challenge you, when you wake up at night," and he goes, "You're about 50. I know you're going to wake up at night. I know you're going to need to take a break. I challenge you to walk through that cemetery at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., whenever you get up." And I was like, "It's always 3 a.m.
Did you say, "Hey, you better be up too to witness this
No,
challenge"?
no, but I took, I literally took, I was like, "I'm doing it. I'm going to walk through this cemetery." And I woke up at 3 a.m. and I got out, and I went to the one holer, the little the toilet there, and I looked at the cemetery, and I swear to God, it looked like a Hammer film. Like there was fog creeping through, not like around the gravestones, because it was at a curve of the river, and there was like this ridge, and the wind was like blowing down across the river, and like it was making this fog, and it looked like a machine fog that you would see on a movie set. And I was like, "I ain't doing that. I'm not walking through there."
I guess you had to pay him some more food, I guess.
I didn't, because the next thing as I was getting back into my hammock, the raccoons attacked his shelter. And he was screaming. He's like, "Oh my God, help, help." And I walked in, I put the flashlight in, and there were raccoons up in the rafters of the shelter. They had his bologna. They had his bread. They took his coffee mug. They just ran off with everything. And the guy was shook up. He was like, "I don't have any food." I literally left him food. I left him a coffee mug.
Poor guy.
Like, and he did ask me, he goes, "Did you walk through the cemetery?" And I lied. I was like, "Yeah, it's no big deal."
Oh my.
There were no raccoons there.
So all right, I got to ask this question. Is that cemetery accessible by car? Is that campground
It is not.
accessible?
It is
So
not.
we would have to get on that trail
Yes.
to access that.
It's in an area called Buena Vista.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember the name. The
There's
closest
a reason
town-
why I'm asking you this.
You can park at Boston, and it's about a 2.5 mile walk down the trail
Okay.
to get to it.
Cool.
But you should definitely go. There was also a mining disaster there that within a mile of the cemetery.
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like
And it's right on the Chestnut Ridge.
It sounds like pandemonium, like all this bad stuff happened.
Yeah.
These were definitely raccoons.
Well, I know. Maybe the raccoons are cursed. I don't know.
But I can tell you that the cemetery was, it was very, to see that fog rolling like that, there was no way I was walking through there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. So, if somebody is going to start out doing what you do, what gear would they need besides a bike? So if you could give me like some equipment recommendations. It don't have to be super detailed. I mean, obviously you're going to want a set of panniers for your bike. How much, just give me kind of a quick rundown of what they would need.
So you can buy some really reasonable equipment. The storage equipment is more important than what you're actually putting in because it deals with the balance of your bike and how it handles. And if you put everything on the back, then you're a little light in the front. You hit the brakes, and things get really squirrely.
Yep.
So the way you load the bike is very important. There's some really good mid-range price things that you can put on the front tires and over the back tire to keep things balanced. And I would really recommend talking to going to the bike shop and telling them what you're going to do.
Okay.
And outfitting it that way because loading in a balanced way really is a safety issue, especially when you're on like the Gap Trail because there's a 22-mile climb. At the beginning, it goes up
slow gradual rise.
About 3%, but it's 2,400 feet. You're actually going up the Continental Divide.
Oh, wow.
And it's really great when you hit the top and you coast down for 20 miles. But you can develop a lot of speed, and if you're not really well balanced and have gear that's not going to flop into your chain or into your spokes, and you could really hurt yourself. Yeah. So I think like making sure that you've secured things on your bike in a way that you're not going to be in danger.
Okay. I
think is the biggest bit of advice I would have. What you put in those panniers, like weight really isn't that big of an issue, like it is when you're backpacking because you get some inertia going, and that's not the biggest issue. So you don't have to buy the most expensive, lightest equipment. But you should be a little weight conscious in how you're going to distribute it on the bike.
So basically, the most important thing is the gear that you actually use to carry your equipment.
I think so.
So buy good panniers is what you're basically saying.
Or just good, something that can be balanced. It doesn't have to be the most expensive
thing, but something that of a good, decent quality.
Yeah, and I tried buying really cheap ones initially because I'm not sure this is going to work. And they would move around on the back of my bike and shift, and sometimes it would throw my balance off.
I understand that a little bit because I ride a motorcycle. So I know if you're not balanced on the sides or anything like that, it throws you off.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a bigger beast.
Especially if it's not completely flat.
Exactly.
And I did have this. I was out on Pine Creek Gorge one time, and I was biking, and most of the rail trails actually are up on ridge tops. This one's down in the valley.
Yep, that's awesome. That's where we were up in upstate PA. It starts up there.
It's a 63-mile run, and I bike to the top and I bike back, and it's really nice. But I was cruising along one time, and a white-tailed deer came busting downhill, almost hit my front tire, and I kind of swerved, and my gear flopped. And I ended up eating some gravel.
Oh, wow.
Just because I didn't have everything secured. I didn't have the best gear to store my equipment. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have a very important question. As a fellow Marylander who moved north.
Oh, boy.
Why can't the Pennsylvania Dutch make a good crab soup?
I have to tell you, I'm coming around on chicken pot pie.
Oh, no question. I love chicken pot pie. I'm just yearning for a bowl of good
I had
crab
some
soup.
church lady pot pie this week, and it's like what we would call on the shore slick dumpling. It was made with like lard and flour, and it was really delicious.
So let me ask you two Marylanders this: what's better, Chicken pot pie or crab soup?
Oh no, good crab soup.
Definitely crab soup.
I beg to differ on that one. When we're talking pot pie, we're not talking a chicken pie with a crust.
Yeah, pot boy.
It's on the shore we would call it stewed chicken with slick dumplings. That's what you call chicken pot pie here.
Do you miss the shore? Do you miss fishing and
I've come to love the mountains so much. I can't even imagine living on flat land again. And like it's not really mountainous here. And I've moved one county over and it's a little flatter. And I once a week I have to drive into York County and hike at Spring Valley or up on the new state park, Riverlands State Park. The landscape is just really something.
It's something about it. It's along the river for me especially. I love the mountains too, but just these creek valleys along the river.
I love living in Lancaster City. I love that side. We have some great parks.
Oh yeah, there's some.
But it's not the same. Like even there's just driving across on the old bridge to here. It's a big difference in topography, geology. And I think there's something about this area that's hard to put words on. There's some quartz and there's some granite and I'm looking at a quarry cut. It's just really I miss this. I miss this, and I don't think I could live away from it.
If I moved, it would have to be deeper in the mountains.
I would definitely
like upstate.
I could
or
go
West Virginia.
I could go into the northern tier of PA, no problem.
We just got back from there. Was that a month ago?
About a month. Yeah.
And I love it up there.
It's stunning.
Yeah,
like, I saw what you saw in it.
And I love York County. I love the South Central, but I just love mountains up there.
Yeah, they're stunning.
And
gorgeous.
The North Central.
And it's remote. There are places there in the Hammersley Wild area near Crossport.
Yeah,
just really incredible.
Yeah,
we were.
Yeah. No, it's amazing how you head further north or deeper into the Appalachians, just how much it changes. And like I was telling him, how much the mountains are different in northern tier PA between where I was in West Virginia a couple months ago in the fall. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, West Virginia is lush. It's much it's the same mountain chains, basically, but it's lush. And then you get up there, it's like hard scrabble mountains, it's a different animal, it feels more wild and savage.
I know we're starting to wrap up, but I did want to talk about a bikepacking trip I took in February about 3 years ago.
Okay, so and that's what we were going to do. So what I was going to ask you next is, like, if we're sitting around a fire, if we actually had a fire here keeping us warm, which unfortunately, I should have done that, but that's okay where we're at. We can't have a fire.
No.
What story would you tell me into?
Here we go.
Let's launch into it.
It actually involves. I would have never done this if I hadn't met Chad. He took me to this trail, Stony Valley, up to what's the chimney called where you hike up in there?
The chimney. What that trail is, off the Appalachian Trail. It's about north. It's about an hour north of here.
State Game Land 211.
Yeah, 211. They also, what do they call it? It's one of the most remote sections.
Stony Battery, I think.
In South Central PA. It's like one of the biggest areas of unbroken wilderness.
I've read up on this.
So it's slightly north of Fort Indiantown Gap.
That's right.
And the AT runs through there.
Roush Gap.
Yes, Roush Gap. And there's a old steam shovel up there. And then there's this old...
The General.
Yeah. And there's this old... They call it the General because it says General on the back of it. That was the company that made it. Anyhow, there's a tower, which is basically an old chimney, and they call it the Stone Tower, is what they call it.
So, Chad, in the wintertime, I think it was right around the New Year.
It was January or February. I can't remember.
He took me up there. We did a hike.
8 miles. It's rough.
on the AT, and there was some hard scrabble right up some boulder fields, rock face.
He loves doing that.
Completely
That is Ruck Rabbit approved trail.
Completely ice covered.
That trail is what the guys that did that trail with me backpacking, they call that the Trail of Tears.
It was a slog. It was a sufferfest. And at some point you get to the top of the mountain, there's a spring up there that's just beautiful water, but you can't drink it. But then it's cascading over the rocks that we're climbing and freezing solid. Like I should have had crampons. I should have had an ice axe. Like I know it sounds like an exaggeration. We went across a wire bridge.
We went on the Stone Tower section?
Yeah.
I don't remember doing that.
It was exciting as hell. And then as we were doing this, he said, there's a rail trail here too.
On the other side of the mountain.
On the other side of the mountain. And I was like, well, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do it in the winter. Because this is beautiful. And I remember chatting with Chad, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go do this trail. And he goes, well, before you go, tell me what you're wearing so I can identify the body. Because you better have your act together if you're going to do that.
It is not an area that if something bad happens, that you are going to be found.
There's no cell coverage. It's the second most remote spot in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. In the south end of the state, it's probably the most remote spot in the southeast section.
It certainly is.
If you get further out to the southwest, you got the Laurel Highlands. It's a little more remote. But in this section, which includes York, Lancaster, before you get up into the actual mountains, it is probably the most remote section of unbroken wilderness. But you've got to have your act together, especially in the wintertime, going up there.
And I felt like he warned me. It was fair warning. And I had, at some point, he was like, you got to make sure you have at least 3 ways to make fire. I had 5. I had multiple starters. I had multiple redundancies because I was bike packing. And I just made sure that I had safety, warmth, food. And one of the things I realized as I was on, this would have been a narrow gauge rail.
Yep.
And as I was biking along, I went from ghost town to ghost town. And
5 ghost towns on that rail trail.
Northeast ghost towns aren't very exciting because they're wood clad, they're rotted out. You're just looking at foundations.
They're just piles of rocks. If you don't know what you're looking at, you just think they're just piles of rocks.
But I had an amazing dinner on a hearth on one of these, right in the chimney. I cooked a beautiful steak. I hung my food around. There are coyotes there.
Absolutely.
Big time. And I ended up, you can't camp in the state game lands unless you're within, I think, 20 feet of the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, something like that. There's or you're on AT shelter.
So what I had done is I'd taken a map, I photographed it, I sent it to Chad so he knew where I was at, and I ended up walking up to the Roush Gap Adirondack shelter to grab some water. It was potable there, and I ended up being about 20 or 30 feet away. The coyotes went all night. I couldn't really find a lot of firewood except for some firs that had some dead limbs, and I gathered so many dead limbs that it looked like I had cleared out the whole woods. Like you could see. Made a big fire, and one of the things that Chad had told me, and I knew it was true, but I hadn't really prepared for it. He said, in the valley where you're at, the cold is going to sink down. Yep. And whatever the forecast is, it'll be 20 degrees colder. So I ended up at the Adirondack shelter at Rouse Gap. I was expecting coyotes, so I had my food way far away. I was going to have a fire going all night. It got cold enough that I really, really got uncomfortable.
I've slept in that shelter. It's like a dugout.
Well, I didn't sleep in the shelter. I was in the baker's tent that you would recommended, and I had bought a really good insulated pad, and I had the tarp that had the shiny side out, and I had some wool on top of it, and no matter what I did, I could sleep, I could fall asleep, I could stay asleep for about an hour, hour and a half, and I'd wake up and I would be ice cold. And so I would get up, I'd stoke the fire, get as close as I could, warm back up, lay back down, about the third time I had been through that pattern, the coyotes were getting closer. It was getting more interesting. I started gathering more wood.
I'm laughing because I've gone through this.
Yeah, and so the third time I laid down, I could actually feel the cold on my kidneys, like,
wow,
and moving into my bloodstream, and I was like, maybe this wasn't the best idea. Maybe this wasn't a great idea to bike 20 miles in the snow to come out here. And I'd have to say it was one of the most challenging camping situations I've ever been in. And I was safe. You know, I wasn't hypothermic or anything. I ended up I had hand warmers all over my body. And
good idea.
I ended up falling asleep and sleeping pretty well. And as challenging as it was, as uncomfortable as it was, I think, the single best night I've had camping in my life.
Awesome.
I would never have exchanged that for a comfortable sleep. Like the whole thing, there was a full moon. The coyotes were baying. It was just perfect. Everything
awesome.
About it was perfect.
Awesome.
I was definitely, like, being connected to the cold was perfect. Being in nature was perfect. It was just something I'll never forget. And I may never do it again, but I will always have that perfect night in the cold, feeling, you know, you should be cold when it's 20 degrees. You should. It was my best, and I would have never had the confidence to do it if I hadn't met you, hadn't been there, hadn't scouted it out, hadn't had you running my backup safety plan.
Yeah.
You know, having the right equipment. And when I was hiking with Chad the first time we were hiking in this area, he was showing me his logo, Ruck Rabbit Outdoors. And there's a rabbit on it. And he said, you know why this rabbit looks confident? And I'll let you tell the story.
Well, basically, everybody's seen the logo. When you follow woodcraft or bushcraft, whatever you want to call it, you'll see a rabbit smoking the pipe, and it's an old northeastern indigenous tribe legend. I think, and there's multiple tribes that have that, because rabbit was the trickster for the East Coast, not coyote, because coyote hasn't been here only for 300 years or so. And basically it says, why is rabbit able to smoke his pipe when fox, wolf, bear, bobcat, and all these other predators are hunting for him? And it's because he's confident in his abilities. So knowing your gear, having that knowledge of things, your bike camping or whatever you do, makes you confident and not afraid to take on conditions like we're in right now.
I am getting cold. I'm going to admit it. But I can tell you, I would not have been able to do that without having met you. And it led to one of the most memorable nights of my life.
Awesome.
And I know no matter how old I get, I will always remember that evening and how special it was. And I'll have other evenings like that, I'm sure, in the future. But that one, just the idea that you could hop on the back of a bike, go down a snowy trail into a remote area, knowing that you have, redundant systems that can keep you going, keep you safe, and enjoy something that maybe only a handful of people nowadays get to experience. It was just, that was truly one of the best nights of my life.
I don't think there's a lot of people that are willing to camp in this kind of stuff.
I wouldn't have, even the cold, I wouldn't have changed anything about that evening.
Yeah, it's a I don't know, Tim, what would you say? It's a required taste.
Acquired taste, yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know.
You hiking this stuff with me.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So it's definitely something you got to have a certain mentality for.
Yeah, and it's become my favorite season.
Mm-hmm.
And
mine definitely.
You got to get outside.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for braving the cold and the snow, guys. Appreciate it. And be sure, everybody, to get out. Check us out. Wherever you listen or watch other podcasts. Check out Strange Familiars with my friend here. Awesome podcast. I know we might have to check out that area.
I think we got to go.
I think that sounds interesting.
Yep.
So definitely we're going to be doing that. And I don't know if we'll do it in the cold. Maybe we'll check that out. So, but no, check out and like and subscribe on YouTube and other places, and definitely keep an eye out. We have more episodes coming. So till next time, fair weather and safe journeys.
I was going to have a fire going all night. It got cold enough that I really, really got uncomfortable.
I've slept in that shelter. It's like a dugout.
Well, I didn't sleep in the shelter. I was in the baker's tent that you would recommended, and I had bought a really good insulated pad, and I had the tarp that had the shiny side out, and I had some wool on top of it, and no matter what I did, I could sleep. I could fall asleep. I could stay asleep for about an hour, hour and a half, and I'd wake up and I would be ice cold. And so I would get up, I'd stoke the fire, get as close as I could, warm back up, lay back down. About the third time I had been through that pattern, the coyotes were getting closer. It was getting more interesting. I started gathering more wood.
I'm laughing because I've gone through this.
Yeah, and so the third time I laid down, I could actually feel the cold on my kidneys, like,
wow,
and moving into my bloodstream. And I was like, maybe this wasn't the best idea. Maybe this wasn't a great idea to bike 20 miles in the snow to come out here. And I'd have to say it was one of the most challenging camping situations I've ever been in. And I was safe. You know, I wasn't hypothermic or anything. I ended up I had hand warmers all over my body. And
good idea.
I ended up falling asleep and sleeping pretty well. And as challenging as it was, as uncomfortable as it was, I think, the single best night I've had camping in my life.
Awesome.
I would never have exchanged that for a comfortable sleep. Like the whole thing, there was a full moon. The coyotes were baying. It was just perfect. Everything about it was perfect.
Awesome.
I was definitely, like, being connected to the cold was perfect. Being in nature was perfect. It was just something I'll never forget. And I may never do it again, but I will always have that perfect night in the cold, feeling, you should be cold when it's 20 degrees. You should. It was my best, and I would have never had the confidence to do it if I hadn't met you, hadn't been there, hadn't scouted it out, hadn't had you running my backup safety plan, having the right equipment. And when I was hiking with Chad the first time we were hiking in this area, he was showing me his logo, Ruck Rabbit Outdoors. And there's a rabbit on it. And he said, you know why this rabbit looks confident? And I'll let you tell the story.
Well, basically, everybody's seen the logo. When you follow woodcraft or bushcraft, whatever you want to call it, you'll see a rabbit smoking a pipe, and it's an old northeastern indigenous tribe legend. I think, and there's multiple tribes that have that, because rabbit was the trickster for the East Coast, not coyote, because coyote hasn't been here only for 300 years or so. And basically it says, why is rabbit able to smoke his pipe when fox, wolf, bear, bobcat, and all these other predators are hunting for him? And it's because he's confident in his abilities. So knowing your gear, having that knowledge of things, your bike camping or whatever you do, makes you confident and not afraid to take on conditions like we're in right now.
I am getting cold. I'm going to admit it. But I can tell you, I would not have been able to do that without having met you. And it led to one of the most memorable nights of my life. Awesome. And I know no matter how old I get, I will always remember that evening and how special it was. And I'll have other evenings like that, I'm sure, in the future. But that one, just the idea that you could hop on the back of a bike, go down a snowy trail into a remote area, knowing that you have, redundant systems that can keep you going, keep you safe, and enjoy something that maybe only a handful of people nowadays get to experience. It was just, that was truly one of the best nights of my life.
I don't think there's a lot of people that are willing to camp in this kind of stuff.
I wouldn't have, even the cold, I wouldn't have changed anything about that evening.
Yeah, it's a I don't know, Tim, what would you say? It's a required taste.
Acquired taste, yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you hiking this stuff with me.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's definitely something you got to have a certain mentality for.
Yeah, and it's become my favorite season. And
Mine definitely.
You got to get outside.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for braving the cold and the snow, guys. Appreciate it. And be sure, everybody, to get out. Check us out. Wherever you listen or watch other podcasts. Check out Strange Familiarness with my friend here. Awesome podcast. I know we might have to check out that area.
I think we got to go.
I think that sounds interesting.
Yep.
So definitely we're going to be doing that. And I don't know if we'll do it in the cold. Maybe we'll check that out. So, but no, check out and like and subscribe on YouTube and other places. And definitely keep an eye out. We have more episodes coming. So till next time, fair weather and safe journeys.
And so it is, you've flown away, my friend. I think on you today. I hope sometimes you sing my songs all on the sunset.